everybody, and welcome back to another Kings of War Battle Report. I'm Visibly Riley, and it's been almost a month since the US Masters, and this is the only game I've managed to get due to, sickness and work problems and COVID-19 and all that. At least partially explains the dearth of content. But anyway, this week we have Ogres versus the Herd in a 2300 point battle featuring the scenario Dominate. So first off, we have my opponent's army, which opens with a horde of Lycans with the Pipes of Terror, followed by a horde of Earth Elementals, then a regiment of Longhorns, a regiment of Hunters of the Wild. Why is it Hunter of the Wild? Whatever. Then we have a horde of Minotaur Chariots with the Wine of Elven Kind, followed by a Tree Herder with the Trickster's Wand, a Greater Earth Elemental, Moon, the Moonfang, then two troops of Wild Gur Panthers, a Great Chieftain on Minotaur Chariot with a short bow, and finally a Druid with Chariots the Saint and Surge 4. I will say that I'm not sure the Minotaur Chariot Horde had the Wine of Elven Kind, but I think they might have, and I can't figure out what the last 40 points of the list was. But anyway, it doesn't matter too much. As for my thoughts on the army, it is hyper elite. I guess it's not hyper elite, you can go lower. But this is the sort of style that my regular opponent likes to play, which is a little low on the unit drop, a little low on the unit strength, but big on the hitting power. That is, 3 depth 6 units. That Minotaur Chariot Horde, especially if they have the Wine, is quite a hard hitter. But there's just some weird stuff going on there. Like, I don't know why Minotaur Chariots don't unlock in the Herd. That seems to be a recurring problem with version 3, where I look at a lot of units and I go, why don't these unlock, right? Or why doesn't this army have another unlock? But anyway, other than that, I think it's an interesting start to a list, and definitely my opponent was just sort of trying things out, and I think that this is a cool start to it, just sort of pushing forward. Anyway, speaking of an interesting start, here's my Ogre army. I was recently looking at the new Mantic Ogre models, the heroes, excuse me, the heroes that they're putting out, and honestly, those are some fantastic models, like, yikes, and I don't say that quite often about Mantic models, including with their recent releases, so those really grabbed me, and it really got me in the Ogre mood. So anyway, I open up with a Legion of Warrior Chariots featuring Sir Jesse's Boots of Striding. Then we have a horde of Siege Breakers with the Chalice of Wrath, 2 hordes of Berserker Braves, 2 hordes of Boomers, 2 Berserker Bullies with one holding the Blade of Slashing and the other the Mace of Crushing. Then we have an Ogre Warlock with a Boomstick, 3 Army Standards, and 3 Red Goblin Blasters. So this is, it's a bit of a spammy Ogre army. I'm running, 6 characters there. I've just got them to throw in the way. Ogre characters are insane. I have a Lightning Bolt 9 in the list just to sort of throw out a little ranged threat. The Warrior Chariots are, they hit really hard. They've got 25 attacks, Thunderous 2, Crush 1, Brutal, they're 3+ melee, they're speed 8. But mostly I want them because I like having something in an Ogre army that is not 15-17, right? So they're a 20-22. They're pretty, in def 5, they're a pretty tough nut to crack, assuming you don't get a flank, which, yikes, their flanks are big. That 200 millimeters, that's a big one. But anyway, the rest of the list, it's pretty cool. I really like Berserker Braves this edition. I like them in the previous edition too. I used to run the regiments to power up my Warlocks. Now I think the Hordes might be doing something interesting. They've got 30 attacks, they have the Wild Charge D3, so they have a possible 15-inch charge. I just think they're an interesting unit, and Berserker Bullies are insane. They have 8 attacks, they're 3+ melee, they are the Wild Charge D3, they're nimble, they're Crush 2, 3+, just yikes. So good. Anyway, moving on to the scenario itself. We are playing Control. So again, Control is an easy one. You divide the table up into 6, and they're each worth 1 victory point, except for your opponent's center. Like the center square on their side of the field is worth 2 points at the end of the game. Highest unit strength holds it. That's it. And here's a bit of a layout of the table. Then we have the zones. So from my opponent's perspective, these are all worth 1, and then my center's worth 2. And then from my perspective, this is worth 2, and then these are all worth 1, which is a little Cyclops smiley face. And anyway, so it's a really simple one. It seems like we play control a lot, and in fact, I played this. I played my opponent here at the U.S. Masters, and we also played control there. We just play control a lot. But anyway, I like control, so no problem. And yeah, moving forward onto the terrain. So first off, we have 2 height 9 forests, followed by 2 height flat graveyards. We might have been running them as height 1. It doesn't matter too much. We don't have that much shooting beyond my lightning bolt. Well, I guess the red goblin blasters have guns, but the lightning bolt and the boomers are the only real shooting. Then we have 3 height 3 hills, followed by 3 height 2 walls, 2 of which are just sort of split into little mini walls. And then we have 1 height 7 building, which is a little hard to see over here. It's really just a height 7 impassable. It's a big rock. Anyway, that's the terrain, so let's get into army deployment. First off, we have my opponent's first troop of Gur Panthers, followed by the Lycan Horde with the Pipes of Terror. Then we have Moon right here, big old pig today. Really cool model, but I mean, I'm sure it's a Mirsha model. They're all pretty cool. Then we have a horde of Earth Elementals, followed by a Greater Earth Elemental. Then on the right flank, as I would see it, we have the Tree Herder with the Trickster's Wand. We have a Druid with Surge 4 and the Shroud of the Saint. A Minotaur Chariot Horde with the Wine of Elvenkind, and a Gur Panther troop. And finally, bringing up the full right side, we have a Longhorn Regiment, a Minotaur, or a Great Chieftain on Minotaur Chariot, but Great wouldn't fit in this box. So, Great Chieftain on Minotaur Chariot with a short bow, and Hunters of the Wild Regiment. I really want that to be Hunters, not Hunter. So anyway, that's my opponent's army. We go into the Ogres now. We have my first Red Goblin Blaster. This is because I forgot the third, well, I forgot the third model, and my other 2 were in, you'll see them, they're in a bit of disrepair, but anyway, this guy is supposed to be just another one of my chariots. Then we have a Berserker Bully with the Mace of Crushing. I haven't figured out that model just yet, but this guy's got a big mace. Then we have the second Red Goblin Blaster, which, again, I forgot a few of them. The first Boomer Horde. Then the first ASB, the second Boomer Horde, the Warlock with the Boomstick, the Siegebreaker Horde. They actually have their standard right now, but it breaks during the game. They have the Chalice of Wrath. Then we have the first Berserker Brave Horde, the second ASB, the Red Goblin Blaster, the Berserker Bully with the Blade of Slashing, which is just a sword ogre that I had lying around. And then we have the second Berserker Brave Horde, the third ASB, and of course the Warrior Chariot Legion with the J-Boots. And that's the army. So we roll off to see who goes first, and it ends up being an Ogre turn 1. I did actually lose the roll off, but my opponent wanted me to go first, which again, in control, it's a pretty good idea. It gives you that last turn to move around. So first off, I move the army forward and I take aim with my Lightning Bolt 9 on the only things I can see. I went for the Minotaur Chariot Horde. I do 2 or 3 damage to them, but it's not very good, and you know they have heal 5 in the army, so I don't expect that to stick. And Radiance of Life. And that ends up ending the Ogre turn. You can see my maneuvering forward. Just wanted to keep my battle line straight. I kept out of the charge range of the Tree Herder and the Hunters of the Wild, along with these Lycans, because why would I get charged? I did allow Moon. Excuse me. Moon has the option to charge into my Berserker Braves or into my Warrior Chariots. This is a hinder charge. This one is not. I don't care about either of those things. Moon wants to come here to die. Go nuts, man. And with that, we go into turn 1 for the herd. So turn 1 herd. I'm not sure what this is showing. Maybe that the herd backed up a little bit. But anyway, they take aim with the short bow, shoot into one of my Red Goblin Blasters. They're def 5, but only a dash 10, and this one is not inspired. Fortunately for me, 0 wounds there, and that's the end of my opponent's shooting. So you can see things just sort of move forward. We've got the Lycans making it so the Berserker Bully here cannot get around their flank and face in, right? So I can't pivot, move 6, and then pivot in. I'll still be chargeable there, along with threatening some of the flanks here. Moon's in charge range. These Gur Panthers are speed 10, so they're probably in charge range as well. And everything else just moves out of my charge range or Also, I forgot to mention this, when the Hunters of the Wild scouted forward, they made sure to stay out of 18 for the boomer range. And these guys are just making it so if my boomers want to shoot, pretty much the entire army is going to be able to charge me. So with that said, we move into turn 2. Let's see what the Ogres can do. So turn 2, first off, I move my army forward. I basically make it so my boomers are within 18 inches of the Great Chieftain, because the Great Chieftain doesn't have the best nerve. I think they're a 13-15 in def 5. So yeah, I just move the boomers forward. I throw an ASB in front of these Minotaur Chariots. Because they're Chariots, they're so wide, I'm not sure that they can actually pivot around me using their nimble to get into anything, except for they could probably get into these boomers. I'm not too worried about that because, again, well, no, they have Strider. They might be able to kill him. No, the more I think about it, the more I think they didn't have the Wine of Elvenkind. I'm not sure what that 40 points was. So anyway, I throw an ASB in front of them just because screw them. And then I move my Red Goblin Blaster. This one was in the terrain over here, moves forward to get some shots onto the Hunters of the Wild or onto the Great Chieftain if I need it. The other one's already in range to shoot at the Hunters of the Wild, so who cares? And then hidden off to the right is a Berserker Bully, just perched slightly or 50% on the hill, out of line of sight of any of these units, and I think out of charge range of the Longhorns. Just getting ready to go for any charges if these things come into me. So that's the idea. I'm just going to shoot everything into this Great Chieftain, try to drop one of the few rallying sources on my opponent's army real early. So just because with elite armies, you don't want to be taking a sudden spike, right, with a nerve check, and if I don't have to re-roll it, even better. So here is later in the turn, you'll see I charged with one of my Berserker Bullies into the Lycans. I forgot to take a picture of it, but I did remember to take a picture of my hit roll, which is insane. That is 8 dice, all of which are 5+, and actually 6 of which are 5s themselves. And then I rolled the wound, and I need a 3+, or no, I need a 2+ to wound Lycans because they're only def 4, and I wound with all 8 attacks again on all 4+ that time. So pretty crazy rolls, but in the end, I roll terribly on my break test, and I don't even waver them. So, I mean, the dice giveth, the dice taketh away. So here is the end of the turn. You can see the Berserker Bully sad about his amazing feat, but then these Lycans being so stalwart. I moved this Red Goblin Blaster forward because I don't... The Gur Panthers cannot double charge onto the Blaster because Moon is blocking them. So they could charge solo, or Moon could charge me, but not both. I kept Moon and these Gur Panthers in the front of my Berserker Braves. The Lycans are nimble, but they can't actually see my Berserker Braves because the Berserker Bully is blocking their line of sight by just being next to their leader point, right? So they can't see past him, and that's just a bit of a trick. And I'm like, well, Moon, so Moon I believe has 7 attacks with Elite and Vicious, right? So hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s. I'm like, maybe it's even 6 attacks. He's not particularly powerful, and I'm like, I might be able to tank it with just a Red Goblin Blaster, and if I don't, it's only 65 points, so who really cares? I did shoot at Moon. I need 7, so it's 1 shot on 6s. I don't hit with that, but anyway, with the rest of my shooting, I do manage to kill off this Great Chieftain. That is pretty nice, and I did get him to a double 1 town. I think, now that I think about it, it's a 14-16. But yeah, both these just open fire, kill it off. I fire both of my Red Goblin Blasters into these Hunters of the Wild. I do 3 wounds, which is it's pretty good. But I don't get lucky on my break tests and roll that 11 or whatever to waver them. And that is the end of the turn. So we move into turn 2 for the herd. So turn 2 herd. First off, we've got the Hunters of the Wild charging into my Red Goblin Blaster. They are worried about this because the Berserker Bully can pretty easily get a flank. I also have another Red Goblin Blaster that might be able to get a flank, and then there's all these boomers and such, so there's no way for them to turn without me at least getting 1 flank charge, unless they do this little trick, right? So if we go back a picture, you can see these Gur Panthers back here. So what they're going to do is pivot with their nimble and then just run 20 to block it off. So we just got out some measuring devices, blah, blah, blah. And here they're at an angle, but that's just because we assumed it would kill the Red Goblin Blaster. If it doesn't, we'll realign it. But if it kills the Red Goblin Blaster, it pivots like that to make sure that the two units, the Berserker Bully and the Red Goblin Blaster, that are the other Red Goblin Blaster, that are in its flank, cannot actually legally charge it. So we spent a lot of time messing around with that. There's no reason to do it twice. So yeah, they charge into this Red Goblin Blaster with the Gur Panthers protecting them. And over here, we've got the Minotaur Chariot Horde deciding to charge into my ASB. They could have pivoted around it to go into my Siege Breakers, but in the end, my opponent's like, it's just not that good of a charge. I think it was an 8 to break them. 8 to break them twice, so it's just not great. Might as well just get rid of this ASB and then back up, right? And I think that's a pretty reasonable response. So with that said, they go for that. And over here, yeah, the Tree Herder just goes into one of my Boomer Hordes. There's nothing I can really do about it. My army, I don't have a giant or really... I mean, Siege Breakers used to be Crush 3 plus that one pip of Thunderous Charge. So they would make short work of a Tree Herder if they charged it, especially right now, because I think they might have a flank. But, oh no, they don't have a flank, I remember now. But anyway, now that they're only Crush 2... They're a great unit, it's a great side grade, but they're not going to be taking down a Def 6 unit anytime soon, nor is any of this stuff. Even this flank from Boomers, right? That's 36 attacks on 4s and then 5s. So I do, what, 6 damage with that? Dash 18, Radiance of Life? Unlikely to do much. But anyway, charging into those Boomers just to shut them up at least. And here we have, yeah, so this Berserker brave Berserker. The Lycans regen 2 of their wounds back, and then countercharge into the Berserker Brave, and then these Gur Panthers just decide to go for the flank charge to make sure that Berserker Brave dies, because these Lycans are on quite a bit of damage, and this Berserker Braves are not fucking around. Oh, in case you're wondering with that insane to hit roll, no, I did not use the Blade of Slashing. It just didn't come up. And anyway, moving on, we have Moon charging into one of my Red Goblin Blasters. This is actually the beginning of what my Red Goblin Blasters will probably look like. I made these Chariots a long time ago, just out of shit I had laying around the house, rather. And I made them for a Beastman army, but they're pretty ramshackle. I like them a lot for Goblin Chariots as well. So I'll probably just figure out, some new mounts and then fill this with some explosive barrels. Call it good, or something. Anyway, moving on. I do have at least one more of these. I think I have 2 more, so I should be able to field 3. So we got Moon going into me. And here is the end of the turn. Starting on the left, these Lycans plus the Gur Panthers, yeah, they actually really mess up that Berserker Brave. What was funny about it, if I remember correctly, the Lycans didn't actually do that much, and then my opponent had a very low nerve roll, right? And since I'm fearless, right, I would have been fine. But the Gur Panthers just came in there and wrecked house. So, oh no, do I have it the wrong way? I think I have it the wrong way around. The Lycans did a ton of damage. The Gur Panthers only did, yeah, that's what I was thinking, only did like 2 or 3. So if I'd at least managed the Waver, right, since they're a dash 15, I'm brutal, I needed a 6 to Waver them. So if I had managed that, the Berserker Bullies probably would still be alive, be able to kill these Lycans off. But, I was lucky to get that amount of damage anyway, so I'm not going to cry over spilled milk. We've got Moon going into my Red Goblin Blaster and doing, I think, only 2 wounds, which is, it's not bad, it's not good. But the bad part is that they don't roll the, I think Moon is, yeah, I know Moon is not brutal, so they don't roll the 8 to kill it. Now, it looks worse than it is right now, because the Red Goblin Blaster can disengage and charge into these Gur Panthers, but I can't really, because I'm actually, if I I can disengage, charge into their flank, but who cares about Gur Panthers? And then I can't actually charge into the Lycans because there's a line. I'm in their front even when I back up, and there's a line, and I can't fit there, right? I'd be corner to corner charge, and on top of it, even if I did those charges, I would be hindered because I would back up onto this wall. I don't have Strider. So instead, we're just going to go into Moon and hope for the best. The Gur Panthers do dodge the charge of the Berserker Braves. This is a bit of a mistake by me. I should have positioned myself to be able to see this stuff after my Berserker Bully died, since even with the insane roll, I didn't expect the Berserker Bully to live. So I don't know what I was thinking with this. I think what I was thinking is it's 1 in the morning, but anyway, just a mistake in my maneuvering there. Then over here on the right, we start with the Tree Herder going into the Boomers. It does all right. It does a few wounds, but it does not roll particularly well and just gets a disorder, so not even a waiver, which I don't think it waivers them on really on average dice there, but still not the best. And even worse, the Minotaur Chariots go into my my ASB and they only manage 5 wounds. 5 wounds, which is, oof, that's so poor. So they only manage 5 wounds, and they don't even waiver me. I can do whatever I want with this ASB. So that is just a hot mess. But at least the Hunters of the Wild here do manage to kill off my my Chariot, but just barely. They roll exactly the nerve to kill off that Red Goblin Blaster, and I don't have any Inspiring over there because it's a Red Goblin Blaster. So anyway, that is the end of turn 2, and things are looking pretty bad in the middle of the field for the herd right now, but this left flank is pretty open, and due to my excellent ogre positioning, I don't have many answers to what's going on over here with all these dogs and cats. But anyway, let's move on to turn 3. So turn 3, we start with countercharging my Red Goblin Blaster into Moon Moon. I then have my Berserker Braves move forward and reposition them the way I should have in the first place, but it also opens up a sliver line of sight for the ASB to charge into the Gur Panthers. Ogre ASBs are just fantastic. They hit on 3s, they're crushing 1, they have brutal, so I could just easily clear out this chaff, or at least get in the way. So that's the plan. Then we have, this is yikes. So we have the Minotaur Chariot, or not the Minotaur, the Warrior Chariots charging into the flank of the Minotaur Chariots due to that big fluff on the, or whiff on the ASB. So I get into the flank, I pop my J-Boots. I'm not sure if I needed to. I've got so much damage potential here that I could probably have been hindered with these guys, because that's 50 attacks on 4s and then Crush 1 Thunder 1 still, so 4s and 3s, and then 30 attacks on 4s and 3 attacks on 3s and 4s. So because I also send some Berserker Braves in there, they with their minimum adjustment to get to the unit, they minimum adjust to hit this corner, then they slide in, so they never touch the wall, so they're not hindered, and they're not in the terrain either because my ASB never entered the terrain. So anyway, I probably didn't need to pop the J-Boots at this juncture, but if I kill this unit, I'm going to reform to fight the rocks, so I'm not sure if it'll ever be relevant before I die anyway, so who cares. Anyway, moving on to on the right, I do countercharge with these boomers. It's because I did have a flank charge, but I couldn't get both of them in. I would have had to back up with this unit and then gone for the flank charge. If I'd been able to get the flank with my boomers and the front with the boomers, I might have taken that. It's a lot of output, but that's only what 9 wounds to him. That's a 8 to break twice. Not the best odds. So I don't know, maybe not great. I did have, again, a positioning mistake with my Siege Breakers, which have now backed up to allow the Berserker Braves to charge in. And that positioning mistake is when the Tree Herder charges me, it's actually in the front of where I'd placed my Siege Breakers, so I should have positioned it slightly better to get that flank, but I did position this barely within 12 of that Chariot, so it probably just not possible. But anyway, moving on. I do move my Warlock down here just to go for some Lightning Bolt. My plan this turn, again, I didn't go for the flank charge with my boomers. That is because I'm just going to shoot everything at these Hunters of the Wild, because I didn't want to charge with my Red Goblin Blaster, my last one on the right there, just yet, because they die after they charge. I wanted to use it in combat maybe. So instead, I'm just going to go for some shooting. I have Lightning Bolt 9 still, and I have a Boomer unit, and then I have the Red Goblin Blaster for 3 shots and 6s. So that's the plan. And over here, yeah, this Berserker Bully, which was on the edge of the hill, gets the flank charge on the Panthers. It's a pretty good charge. I mean, it's Panthers, so who really cares too much? If I kill them off, the only problem here is that I want to kill them off and be able to dodge these guys, but again, not possible. My opponent positioned pretty well, especially with these Panthers. So I need them gone. They can't be messing around with my Red Goblin Blaster. My Red Goblin Blaster could have flank charged them as well. And maybe I should have gone for that and saved my Berserker Bully. The more I think about it, that probably is the better idea. Just take the Bully around the side here, not just immediately let it die to Longhorns. But I'm not going to lie, I kind of forgot what Longhorns were for a second. I mean, I knew they had 20 attacks and they're 3+ hit, but I forgot that they're Crush 1 and Thunder 1. So they'll pretty easily be able to kill off that Bully there. So anyway, just a mistake by me. And here we see the end of the turn. It's pretty juicy. I end up, so I blew up on Moon. I did nothing. So I hit with 2 attacks, but I only rolled a 4 for the D6, so total. So it's it's a high variance unit. And I do a couple wounds to Moon. I don't manage to get a waiver, and then I'm dead. Then my ASB charges into the Panthers. I also fail to waiver them, which is, I'm not mad or anything like that. It's a 3-attack unit. But in the middle, things do go better. My Minotaur Chariots plus all this nonsense do manage to kill off, or not my Minotaur, my Warrior Chariots. Maybe that now that they're gone, the Minotaur Chariots will leave my mind. We managed to kill these guys off pretty easily. In fact, I just roll the Warrior Chariots first, and they do enough wounds to double on it anyway. So the rest of the units just move, as you can see. I think I pivoted to the side with this ASB to mess around with these Longhorns. I'm letting the Longhorns, so the Longhorns cannot charge this ASB, they cannot charge these Berserkers, and I turn them all the way around to get into this fight, right? So my thoughts were, I can threaten the Tree Herder and I can threaten the Longhorns, and I'm really, really certain that these, Minotaur Chariots, Warrior Chariots are going to be able to hold up against these 2 units, right? Because, I mean, the Earth Elementals, that's 18 attacks on 4s and 4s, so they do 4.5 wounds, and then we have a Greater on 12 attacks with 4s and 2s, so that's 5 wounds, so between 9 and 10 wounds, I'm a 20-22 inspired. I'm not worried about this. They're brutal, so there is something like that. Looking at 11 if we go for the slightly high average, but still, that's a 9 to even waiver me, and that's not, it's an 11 to kill. Yeah, I don't care. So I'm pretty sure I can tank this 1 turn, and that'll allow my Berserkers to mop up either this Tree Herder with 90 attacks on 5s and 5s, or go into the Longhorns because I left this guy open for them. So that's the thought. We'll see how it plays out. Going into my opponent's, I do manage to kill out the Berserker Bully, or the Berserker Bully does manage to kill out the Panthers, and I pretty easily shoot these Hunters of the Wild off the table. And by pretty easily, I mean exactly. They're 14-16. I did 9 wounds to them, and I just hit the 7. And I think I might have even rolled. I rolled it twice because the Tree Herder's here. So I hit a 7 twice, and I roll exactly 7 twice. So pretty good there. And with that, we go into turn 3 for the Herd. So turn 3 Herd, we've got the Panthers countercharging into my ASB. We have the Lycans going for a charge into the Berserker Braves. My opponent was well aware that this isn't a particularly good charge, but I think they were thinking they needed to produce some results right now because the loss of those Minotaur Chariots, it's not just demoralizing, but it's also very bad for just a battle plan. So got to get something out of this. Going into the Braves is a decent idea. Just if you get the lucky kill there, it's really good, but because they're fearless, I mean, this is the reason why I was running Berserker Braves over Hunters, because I'm fearless, right? These big dick B moves are less likely to actually produce anything. So anyway, we have both the Earth Buddies going into the front of the Chariots. That should be fine. And we have the tree herder going back into my wounded boomers that had countercharged them. The boomers actually did 4 wounds here, so down to 3 after the Radiance of Life. Pretty impressive. And I think they're sitting on 6 wounds, something like that. So not too hopeful that they'll survive 2 turns here against the tree herder. But if they do, that's good. And yeah, the Longhorns go into my Berserker Bully. Again, this is a huge mistake. I should have just sent the Red Goblin Blaster because it's going to have to deal with these guys anyway. So I might as well have just gone in, got it killed, and then not lost my Berserker Bully because that leaves nothing for this to fight if the Red Goblin Blaster is dead. Because of the way the ASB moved and where the boomers are. They're out of range. Yeah, something I would have changed. And here we go at the end of the turn. On the left again, we have the Gur Panthers managing 1 wound against my ASB. Not enough. The Lycans, I believe, rolled pretty poorly. They only do 6 damage to me. Let's see, they have 18 attacks hitting on 3, so 12. Yeah, I guess 6 is average, right? Because they hit... no, they wound me on 3, so a little below. But still, I'm a dash 18, so they are brutal. So anyway, they only manage 6 wounds with the brutal that doesn't produce anything. Moon moves around to just start threatening some flanks. Not a whole lot I can do about it because my boomers are over here, too far away. And the Earth Elementals, they roll outside the box. This is, like I just said before, they do about 9 to 10 wounds on average. These guys together did 18 wounds, so almost double almost double what happened, which I guess makes up for the Minotaur Chariots doing almost exactly half their wounds that they should do on average. So it's pretty funny. At least if you are a herd player, you're still in the game because the Minotaur Chariots are gone, and now the Ogres are like, oh no. My Siege Breakers are out of position because, again, I'm just playing them poorly in this game. You can see the banner slowly breaking as I misposition them turn after turn. And yeah, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do about that. The Tree Herder, I do get a bit more luck here with the Tree Herder only managing to wavering my boomers. And by luck, I mean this is exactly what I want to not happen, because my bullies or my Braves here are not Pathfinders, so they've got 90 attacks, but they only hit on a 5, right? So I kind of wanted, this Tree Herder, well, if it turns to face towards them, I get a free charge, right? So it's probably just going to stay here anyway. If it goes forward, it's not going to be able, because of its angle, it's not going to be able to dodge the line of sight of the Siege Breakers. It definitely doesn't want to flank from them. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to die or be fine, and I'm wavered instead. So just gumming up my lines with Ogres. That's a special level of poor positioning. And yeah, the Longhorns easily kill off that Berserker Bully. It's not even close. I think they double on it. So yeah, get out there. And we go into turn 4. So turn 4, yes, my ASB is going back into these stupid Gur Panthers. I'm just going to kill them off real quick and then turn around, kill those Lycans. Okay? It's easy. Then we have my Berserker Braves going for the countercharge onto these Lycans. They're down to 4 wounds now, but again, I have 30 attacks and I hit on 4s, wound on 3s. So that's 10 wounds on average. That's a double one to kill you with with Brutal. And then we have the end of turn shot, because apparently I forgot to take a picture of what happened on the right. What happened on the left real quick, I kill off the Gur Panthers with my ASB. I kill off the Lycans with my, what are these? Braves, Berserker Braves. Just a bit of a mistake there. And I had to pivot them, as you can see, because I didn't want Moon to charge into my flank. I can't actually tank that with 6 damage on me. And then I couldn't pivot anymore because I'm just slightly out of 9 inches from, if these Earth Elementals pivot on their center, I'm slightly within 9, but they pivot on their center, they'll lose a little bit of distance, and then they can't even possible max surge to get a flank charge there. So that's the idea. In the middle, I backed up again. I backed up with my boomers to pull the Tree Herder in. I backed up with my Siege Breakers because Moon's going to flank charge me anyway. And then I backed up with the ASB. I could have blocked off the charge here by running my Warlock, but in the end I decided that I'd prefer to just fire off a Lightning Bolt, take the flank charge, because I do have Chalice of Wrath. So just take the flank charge. I'll probably be fine. famous last words. But I'll probably be fine, and then I can just charge into Moon Moon and kill him with Siege Breakers. And then I go for some shooting onto the Tree Herder. It's not the best. It's not the best odds, but it's the best thing I have available. So I shoot into him with my boomers. The boomers actually could not see the flank anymore because of how I had to position them to shoot at the Hunters of the Wild. And yeah, I do take my Berserker Braves here. I did have a rear charge, but that rear charge again is not actually all that great. It's 10 wounds on average. I only had 13, or I had 3 wounds on it. So it's a 14, it's a 4 to kill, but if I fail that, I'm not sure I can actually recover, because I'll lose the Berserker Braves immediately against this, and the Longhorns are still there. Like, I still had to deal with them. And the Red Goblin Blaster, at best, just sits in front of them and then dies, because I can't charge, right? Because I'll kill myself. So I have to just drive up in front of it and die. So instead, I charge the Longhorns with the Berserker Braves and the Red Goblin Blaster. I do manage to kill them off, and then I get to turn in on the center here. So that's the Ogre turn 4. All my shooting, I do some damage to this Tree Herder, but not enough to really threaten it too much. And with that, we go into turn 4 for the herd. So the Tree Herder again charges into my boomers. I believe that, yeah, they're at 11 wounds right now. I again made a positioning error, which is I didn't measure to find out where the Tree Herder would end up if it didn't overrun or, you know, any of that stuff. So I should have been better with these boomers, turning them in more like this. That way this Tree Herder has to roll a pretty insane overrun to get out of my line of sight. So anyway, another mistake of the game. And we have some other charges going on with Moon Moon going into the flank of my Siege Breakers, and then the I think that's it. Yeah, nothing else had an actual charge going on. So my opponent casts Heal onto the Tree Herder. It's now healed up. Another reason why I haven't been wary about throwing all my eggs into one basket of charging it, just because, well, if I fail, not only do I then die, it then just gets healed. So yeah, Tree Herders are good. Turns out, news at 11. But thankfully, the Tree Herder does kill off my boomers, but thankfully the Moon Moon does not manage to even waver the Siege Breakers. Does a fair amount of damage. I believe I'm at 6 there. So yeah, but at least I'm not wavered. I'm free to charge into the Tree Herder if I want to. Unfortunately, that heal, I mean, my opponent was not rolling great for heal. It's exactly average. I believe turn 1 was 2, and then 3, and then 2, and then this turn was 3. So it's just, you know, it's a decent amount of heal along with Radiance. And that's going to be that. So we go into turn 5. So turn 5 for the Ogres. If we go back 2 shots, yeah, so I have these Berserker Braves. If they roll high enough, I think I might have been within 13, but it might have been a little over 13. So I just roll the I roll the wild charge to see if it matters, and I roll a 3, so or I rolled a 5, so I get plus 3 inches. So I have an easy rear charge onto Moon Moon. It is again hindered, but you know, take what you can get. So I take that rear charge into Moon Moon, just going for the throat, and I chased it with my ASB just because, why not? This was the one that was on the hill here, I believe, just because I want that Inspire going on. Then we have my Siege Breakers. Yep, you can see the flag is broken off finally. Siege Breakers go into the front of the Tree Herder. I'm not, again, too confident in that. Siege Breakers aren't really the huge powerhouses they used to be. So, you know, it's 18 attacks on 3s and then 4s against this Tree Herder, and it has been healed up a fair amount. So I think it's only at maybe 3 wounds, 4 wounds. And with the rest of my turn, yeah, I just take aim with my boomers. I can shoot into the Greater Earth Elemental, but for some reason it's speed 6 now, so instead I just back up, and by take aim, I mean I backed up. So I back up slightly out of range. I back up again with these Berserker Braves, because there's no reason to risk them right now in control. Every Ogre unit, or every Ogre unit I brought, can take an area, and we're looking for 6 of them, so there's no reason to push my units forward just yet. I do have a Lightning Bolt at the Greater Earth Elemental. It's pretty much who cares damage, but always take what you can get, especially when you're not on clock. And that's going to be it. So we go into the end of turn shot. I do manage to kill off Moon Moon. That's great. but I don't get that tree herder. Tree herders are just a money unit. They're very difficult to take down, especially if you didn't bring any Crush 3, right? I don't have any Crush 3, let alone Crush 4 in this army just yet, so I don't manage it, and we go on to Herd turn 5. So Herd turn 5, the tree herder is just, yeah, it's only at 6 damage. Oof. The tree herder goes into the siege breakers looking to kill yet another unit. It did take a while to kill those boomers, so you know it's got to get its numbers way up. Those are rookie numbers. And here is the end of turn shot. So the tree herder easily manages to kill off my wounded siege breakers, even with my def 6 in the front. It is crushing 3. So I think it has 9 attacks, 3 plus to hit, crush 3, and it rolls very well this turn. Manages, I think, 8 wounds on me. So, you know, just happens. It's gonna swing. It's gonna tree whack. So it just decides to overrun. Because if it overruns, it's actually out of the line of sight of these Berserker Braves, and then it's out of the line of sight of these Boomers. And this is one of those, like, I could have moved the Berserker Brave. Well, I couldn't have moved the Berserker Braves because I went directly backwards. But these Boomers, when I positioned them to shoot at the Hunters, could have positioned slightly better to have that line of sight on the overrun. But meh. I do have a flank charge with my Berserkers, so it's down to 3 wounds now because of its heal. The Druid came out to heal it, and the Radiant, so it's down to 3, but that is going to be 60 attacks on 4s and 5s. I might be able to produce something out of that, right? Like, that's 10 wounds on average. It's the same thing again. You know, it's a 4 to kill you with Brutal. And then I also, I mean, I could get a weird charge with this Warlock as well if I want, I guess. But it's, you know, it's not out of my reach. So with that, we go into turn 6. So turn 6 for the Ogres. I'm just going to move what I can. I decided to charge with my Berserkers into this Greater Earth Elemental because I needed them to be over here to grab this far right area, while this Warlock is making sure to grab my bottom right sectors for a point. The Boomers, so the Boomers could have gone for a flank charge. Well, no, I'm sorry, not a flank charge, but, well, no, I think it was a flank. Doesn't matter, flank or front into the Greater Earth Elemental, but even on a flank, right, I've got 36 attacks, I'm hitting on a 5 now and wounding on a 5. That's not great, right? That's, what, 4 wounds? I'm not big on that. On an unwounded Greater Earth Elemental, it's a dash 19. So even with the Berserker Braves in the front, again, they're another 4 plus to hit unit, so it's 30 attacks on 5s. Not worth it. So instead I move, and also my Boomers needed to actually support the Berserker Braves who went into the flank of the Tree Herder, because I need to make sure that I have at least 3 unit strength in that center, because that's the area my opponent's going for 2 points right now. So I just move, as you can see, and go for some shots onto this Druid, who I do manage to waver. So that's pretty good. Everything else just moves around because it is my turn 6, so I'm grabbing table quarters, or not table quarters, but table 6. So I have, if we draw, well, I guess we'll just go forward. So first off, yeah, I do. I'm not even sure. Yeah, I did. We just didn't mark it. I did 3 damage to the Greater Earth Elemental, which is, yeah, it's actually pretty good to the front. And over here, we'll see that in a second. So I managed to get the Tree Herder up to 11 wounds, so I roll 20% below average, or, yeah, 20% below average, maybe a little more. No, yeah, exactly 20. And even with my Brutal, I roll terribly on the Nerve anyway, so I needed a 4 to kill it, and I think I rolled a 3. So I would have failed on the Nerve anyway, but just a bad roll there. Especially, this unit's not where it is now. It's obviously where the proxy base is, which means these guys cannot see it, but they could have gone for the Surge had I not got this waiver. But they have 6 damage on them, and the Tree Herder is just a very dangerous combatant to leave operational. So yeah, if it charges into me and kills me, it's going to be really bad, because that leaves unit strength 3 that my opponent can do with whatever they want. They have unit strength 1 in this area. They do, again, because of where I move the Boomers, these guys actually have to come into here to get unit strength 4 for that 2-pointer, right? That's the point of these Boomers moving over. with turn 6 Ogre out of the way, let's review what's going on. So over here, I'm going to draw out, I don't have another overview picture here, so we're just going to draw out the table. I currently have this top left area with one of my ASBs. I have the bottom left area with another ASB. This center one is tied between the Greater Earth Elemental and my ASB, the third ASB. I have this top right area with my Berserker Braves, and then I have the bottom right area with my Warlock, and the bottom center with my Boomers and the Berserker Braves, right? It's 6 to my opponent's unit strength 4. But, so that leaves me with 5 VP to 0 as it is right now. But on the next turn, my opponent's going to try to kill off these Berserker Braves, kill off these Berserker Braves, and if they manage that, right, both these get nixed. The table turns a little bit. Again, the Earth Elementals still have to stay here to block out my Boomers, right? The two of them, they got to get that unit strength 4. But they will dominate this, tie for this, and then I will lose this one, right? So my opponent will suddenly gain 2 points, and I'll go down to 3. So it's still in my favor. It's still an Ogre favor, but you know, we could get a turn 7, things could get worse. And on top of it, we're playing blackjack scoring for this game, so every point that I win by is better, right? I get a greater percentage of that 21. So let's go into Herd turn 6, see how it goes. So Herd turn 6, we have the Tree Herder, obviously going into my Berserker Braves, going for the kill. We have the Greater Earth Elemental going into these Berserker Braves, and that's about all she wrote, because again, this Druid in the back here, which does back up behind the woods, is currently wavered. The Earth Elementals turn, as you can see, just in case there's a turn 7, but staying in the center of my area for their 6 to make sure that they get those 2 points. And here we go with the end of the turn. Not a great picture. I didn't realize this when I took it, but I did lose these Berserker Braves. I'm pretty sure these Berserker Braves, I believe, take 6 damage. Everything's gets 6 damage, I guess, and are fine. And then that ends up being the end there, and we roll up to see if there's a turn 7, and there is. So we do get a turn 7, so it's turn 7 for the Ogres is pretty simple. There aren't the best pictures. Yeah, I actually lied about this. The Berserker Braves did not die to the Tree Herder. They get a second chance at life. Go for the kill on the Tree Herder. It's got 11 or 10 damage on it. No, less than that. I wanted it to be 10. It's got like 8 damage on it. So I go in again with these. I could have gone for the flank charge here onto the Greater Earth, but again, I need to make sure that I keep this away from these guys because they could easily go into the very wounded Berserker Braves now, kill them off, and get the center for that 2 point. It's exactly the same as it was before, except I killed the Tree Herder, so it's less likely. I do not manage to kill off the Greater Earth Elemental, which is unfortunate for me. I would have loved to, but I did get the Tree Herder, so I wasn't thinking I was going to because I fought it for 6 turns, right? It charged me on turn 2, and yeah, at least I managed that. So in the end of Ogre turn 7, that's a terrible box. Let's draw it over here on the left. So we've got the 6. I still have these 2. I have them permanently. I still have this one because my Berserker Braves here are alive. I still have this one because, again, I'm unit strength 6. And then I still have this while the center for my opponent is tied still. I couldn't get... Well, I could have sent the Boomers in here, but again, I didn't think I was going to be able to kill off this Tree Herder or not Tree Herder, Greater Earth Elemental with 36 attacks on 5s and 5s. So, yeah. Or I didn't think that was going to help too much. Again, that's 4 wounds. I've got brutal, but that's that would only have brought it to a 13 roll, so that's a 5 or a 6 to kill twice because the stupid Druid would have been alive. But instead, I just shoot the Druid down, just getting those victory points, upping my attrition score. And if my opponent goes into it, so again, I still have I've got the 5 points right now. 5 points is 0. But on my opponent's turn 7, it's pretty much exactly the same, where this remains a tie, I lose this, and then I lose the center, and my opponent gains it. So it goes down to a 3-2. So let's see how it goes. So here we've got the Earth Elementals, right? These guys right here are like, well, here's the thing. I can go and kill off the Berserker Braves here, and then I can still get the 2 points, and I'll just ignore these Berserker Braves instead, because killing these is really, really important right now, because it denies me several points if they do that, right? If they kill off this unit, they'll gain 2 points, which is great, right? But the Greater Earth Elemental then has to solo this unit to actually push out anything great. So instead, they go for the flank and then the front, and boom, they very easily managed to kill them off. The Greater Earth Elemental only had to overrun 1 to get into this table 6, which is good because it did roll a 1. So at the end of the day, the table looks like this. My opponent will be O, and I will be X. So they have the center because of these Earth Elementals, and then they have the right because of the Greater Earth Elementals. That's 2 points there, while I hold this, and this. So it ends up being a 4-2 victory instead of a 3-2. Might have made a small mistake not going after this, but whatever. We did what we did, and that ends up being the end of the game. I do think that this Ogre list has some legs. It's pretty solid. I really like the Berserker Braves. They're just great for their point cost. They remind me a lot of the Berserker Brock Lords. Obviously, they're not as fast, they're not nimble, but 8 attacks and all that jazz. Just they taste of each other. So they're really good. I would like to get a bit more speed into this army. The Siege Breakers I definitely misuse, but even if I downgrade them to Warriors, I don't actually gain that many points. And I definitely don't gain enough points to actually buy a unit, right? So I'm not sure what to do there. If you guys have any suggestions of getting speed into the list, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And until next time, bye.